Karma Mini.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. What is this material nature? What is its source? What is the source of consciousness? What defines which kind of body we are going to take in the next life? And what is the cause of our happiness and distress? All this and many more things we will understand in this very interesting chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita, Nature, Enjoyer and Consciousness. This session is dedicated to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, our spiritual master and the founder and Acharya of the worldwide Hare Krishna movement. Let us see verse number 1. Arjuna uvacha prakritim purusham chaiva kshetram kshetrajnam cha etad veditum ichchami jnanam gyeyam cha keshava. Shri Bhagavan uvacha idam shariram kaunteya kshetram mityabhidhiyate etad yo veti tam prahuhu kshetrajna iti tadvidaha. Arjuna said, "O my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field and the knower of the field, and of knowledge and the end of knowledge." The blessed Lord then said, "This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field." Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Jnanam, Gyeyam. These are very important terms in the Sankhya philosophy, which analyzes the existence to understand the absolute truth. Krishna begins explaining Kshetra and Kshetrajna, two very important terms. Kshetra means field. Just like the farmer has a field, farmer has got liberty. You put the mango seeds, you get mango fruit. You put bitter gourd, you get bitter fruits. In a similar fashion, this body is called Kshetra or field of activity for the living entity. Actually, anything, happiness or distress that we are experiencing, everything comes out of this field called body. It doesn't matter what is happening in the whole world. Ultimately, it is a body which is required for any experience, good or bad, in this world. Somebody could be playing very nice, soothing music, but if a person is deaf, he will not be able to enjoy. There could be very beautiful form in front of us, but if the eyes are not working properly, we will not be able to see the form. Somebody can bring the most delicious foodstuffs, but if we are sick, we will not be able to relish the taste. And if all the senses stop working in the body, then for us the world does not exist. I will think only I exist. So thus our experience, anything good or bad, depends upon this body. This is very important. The same living entity in the body of pig relishes stool. In this body, stool is very nasty, abominable for us. So all our experiences, they depend upon this body. So this is a great science. This body is our field actually, not the whole world. So it depends if we have sown the seeds of Sattva Guna in this body, then we will get knowledge, mind control, sense control, happiness, enlightenment. If we have sown the seeds of Rajoguna in this body, then we will get anxiety, unlimited sensual desires and hard work. And if we have sown the seeds of tamas, mode of ignorance, what we will get is depression and procrastination, always keeping dirty, low moods, criminal mentalities, all such things will manifest. Everything depends upon what kinds of seeds we are putting in this body. And we should not think that the consciousness, as many modern scientists they believe, although not all. Now, there has been great research in the field of consciousness, and some leading scientists, they are agreeing that consciousness is not secondary. So long many were believing that consciousness is secondary to matter. Matter configures itself in a certain way and then consciousness is manifest. But now they are telling no, it is the other way around. The consciousness is primary and matter is secondary. The brain is not the generator of consciousness, rather the brain receives the consciousness. So this distinction is very, very important, first of all, to make any advancement in spiritual life, to understand what is the spirit. If I think I am only this body, consciousness has no separate existence, then we cannot take even first step in spiritual life. That is why Krishna first of all explains to Arjuna Kshetra and Kshetragya. There is a field which we have and we are Kshetragya. Gya means to know, knower of the field. We are different. So it is very important to understand who we are. And if we have some time and a cool mind, some sanity, then we can understand. Any intelligent man with little deliberation can understand that he is different from the body, because the body is continuously changing. The skin is continuously changing, the blood is continuously changing, bones, bone marrow, everything, it is being produced of food that we eat. So the old cells, they die and the new cells replace them. Everything in the body, liver gets replaced, lungs are heart transplantation also happens, kidneys, everything, all the organs of the body can be replaced. And by nature's way also, they are actually getting replaced because old cells are dying and new cells are taking their place. So scientists, what they discovered is actually the brain cells, they almost stay till the time of death. That is what they have done research on. And they tell, so we are brain actually, because I remember when I was small, although my body has completely changed, the cells have changed, but I remember. And then when I grew young, and now that I am old, I remember all these things. So who am I? Who is remembering? Who is experiencing? So they came to the conclusion by some research work and understanding the signals, the neurosignals in the body, that when you sing, this portion of the brain is activated. When you eat, this portion of the brain is activated. From here the signal is coming, here the signal is going. So they thought that the consciousness is the result of some activity of the brain, and actually we are the brain. So some of the people, they thought, if I can preserve my brain and somehow I can put it, I can manufacture robots or some bodies, then I can continue to live on eternally. But this is not sane thinking. Lord Krishna is telling Kshetragya, knower of the field is different from the field, knower of the body is different from the body. Just like the power, the animation in any robot or any toy, it is there because of the battery, the external source. Without it, there is no animation. In a similar fashion, the energy in this body is because of external source, small spiritual spark, which is called Brahma. So we can understand with an analogy, just like we are playing computer game. So one can analyze very nicely that virtual character of the game. When that character has to jump, then unique signal is coming from the keyboard. You press this key, the character would jump. You press another key, character would duck. You press another key, the character would crawl. You press another key, the character would shoot. So it does not mean that the consciousness which the character is displaying, it is coming because of the keyboard. No, there is a conscious person who is passing the signals using the keyboard. In a similar fashion, this brain is simply like keyboard or a computer. through which a conscious personality, the spirit soul, is passing signals. The character is not behaving in a conscious manner on its own. That virtual character is being controlled by a real person outside. In a similar fashion, in this body, we can very nicely analyze from where the signal is coming, where is it going, but we have to understand it is simply an interface between the actual player and the virtual character. So just like a person is mistaken to think that the keyboard is the cause of animation and activities of the virtual character, it is ignorance to think that the brain is the cause of all the activity. Brain is but another organ which is not present in many conscious entities. And you can Google also, there was a Frenchman who was a civil servant and he got 90% of his brain cells dead and vanished. It got replaced by some fluid in the brain. So he was surviving very nicely with decent IQ with just 10% or less than that of the brain cells remaining. His brain was almost gone, but he's doing all the functions nicely. So that is why this theory, the scientists started doubting that what is this consciousness? Who am I? So long we are thinking that brain is responsible for the activities. This front portion, back portion, this lobe, that bowl, cerebral cortex, and so many technologies, terminologies, they have been used to describe the functions of the brain. But this person has got nothing of it. Just few cells are remaining with entire brain being filled by some liquid. But he is functioning very normally. So there have been like this many other case studies also. There have been examples in the Vedas also. How people are following all the normal duties with a different head. So thus we have to understand how a person is functioning without brain. And what to speak of this person, there are many entities, species which do not have brain at all. Just like the trees. Trees are conscious, but trees do not have brains. It means consciousness is not a function of brain. Jellyfish, starfish, and so many species are there which do not have brains. But these species, they do activities of eating, mating, sleeping, defending very nicely without brain. So consciousness is not a function of brain. It is very easy to understand. But we also understand I am that consciousness. And to be more precise, the source of consciousness. I see, I walk, I hear, so who am I? So I am not the brain. We have understood from these examples of the Frenchman, of so many species. So this is what I should think. Who am I? I am nothing of this body. This body changes. I have been observing. So from where have I come in this body? Why have I come in this body? Who is the person or what is the system which is putting so many personalities in so many yantras, machines around us, which we call bodies? So what is this going on in this world? Human life is meant for this inquiry. Not like animals. You give animal the objects for eating, mating, sleeping, defending, and animal is happy, just chasing them entire life. That is why it is told in human form of life, Athato Brahma Jigyasa, you should inquire. If I am not the body, why have I been put into this body? Why am I suffering from diseases and death which are happening to the body? If I am not the body, I need not bother with all these things. Why am I trapped in this body, getting so much of harassment? This is the purpose of human form of life. This is Vedic culture. So Krishna mentions very clearly, Kshetra, this body's field, your happiness, distress, everything is because of this body. Your perception of the world is just because of this body. So you should not depend upon this body in its current state to get knowledge. Because as we discussed, somebody has got a different body. He will have different perception of the world altogether. The pig has a different perception of the world. We have a different perception of the world. The same taste is different for us. So the real knowledge this body will not give us, because all of us have different bodies. A blind man will see forms do not exist. But that is not fact. A deaf man will tell sound does not exist, but that is not fact. So that is why in the Vedas it is mentioned, one should not depend upon this body to directly perceive knowledge. Body creates illusions, hallucinations many times. Then Lord Krishna explains, Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarvakshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajnayor jnanam yashtajnanam matam mama. Now this is interesting. Krishna tells, O scion of Bharat, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its owner is called knowledge. That is my opinion. Now Krishna is explaining what is knowledge. So in this verse, Krishna explains, you are the knower of the body, but Kshetragyam cha, cha means and, cha means also. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi. Please know that I am also Kshetragya, but a special Kshetragya. I am a special knower of the field. What is the speciality? Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. I am conscious of all the kshetras, all the bodies, but you are conscious of just this body. Now I know what is happening in my body. I am conscious. Somebody touches, I'll feel immediately. But I do not know what is happening in your body. I cannot get the sensations. But Krishna is telling, I have the sensations, I have the knowledge of all the bodies, all the fields. Sarva kshetreshu bharata. So there are two kshetragyas, the individual soul and the infinite soul, and both are there within this body. So sometimes people get confused that soul is same as super soul. So we have to understand, and if we don't approach a proper spiritual master, we are bound to get confused, because many times same terminologies are explained. The super soul is also called Atma. Paramatma sometimes is simply called Atma, and individual soul is also called Atma. And Atma also means body, Atma also means mind. So people sometimes think Atma and mind, it is one and the same thing. Sometimes people think Atma and Paramatma is one and the same thing, because same word is being used. Similarly, the word Brahm. The word Brahm indicates individual soul. The word Brahm indicates super soul, Paramatma. And the word Brahm also at times indicates this material nature. So in Vedas it is mentioned. In this purport of this verse, the reference is given. Bhokta bhogyam preritaram cha matva sarvam proktam trividham brahmam etat. Trividham brahmam etat. There are three kinds of Brahma: the individual soul, the super soul, and the material nature. Because it is explained in the Vedas, sarvam khalvidam brahma. Krishna is supreme Brahma, and from him the energy which is coming out, that is also called Brahma. Now this material world is simply transformation of that energy. Actually there is nothing but Brahma only in the existence. But this Brahm is behaving differently in the material world for the conditioned living souls. So it is important to give it a different name, and we give it the name Prakriti. So one should not get confused. One should take shelter of proper bona fide spiritual master. The Prime Minister can be also called Indian. An ordinary citizen can also be called Indian. Both are Indians, but it does not mean that person is Prime Minister or both are one person. No. In a similar fashion, Indian is an identification. In a similar fashion, Brahma is identification, that I am different from this matter which I am seeing around me. Spirit is called Brahma. So just like if I am telling you are Indian, I am Indian, it does not mean I and you are one and the same. Because of not taking shelter of proper spiritual master, with Krishna has repeatedly stressed, he will stress again in the upcoming verses, people get confused. I am Brahma and God is also Brahma, so I am God. Or you have to go and merge with God, become one with God. All these wrong concoctions, they take place. So here Krishna tells very clearly, Cha means all, Cha means and. I am different, I am and you are not the same, Arjuna. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Although I am the Kshetragya, but I am unique because I am conscious of all the fields, all the Kshetras. And Kshetra Kshetragyayor jnanam yastaj jnanam matam mama. Knowing the field and the knower of the fields, both the individual soul and super soul, that is called knowledge. Tat kshetram yaccha yadrikcha yadvikari yatascha yat satchayo yat prabhavascha Tatsamasena me shrinu. Now please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, what its changes are, whence it is produced, who that knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are. Now Krishna will give details. What is this field? What constitutes this field, which means this body? What is this material nature? What is the origin? What are the interactions? What are the transformations? Krishna will give very nice knowledge. Rishibhir bahudha Geetam Chandobhir vividhaif prathak Brahma Sutra Padaischaiva Hetu Madbhir Vinishchitaih. That knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of the activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings, especially in the Vedanta Sutras, and is presented with all reasoning as to cause and effect. So Krishna is explaining various sages have described this knowledge of Kshetra and Kshetragya, body and knower of the body, in various writings. But of all of them, the most important is Vedanta Sutra, which is called Brahma Sutra also. Brahma Sutra Padaischaiva Hetu Madbhir Vinishchitai, Krishna is telling. Hetu Madbhir means cause and effect. Why this Vedanta Sutra is important? Because it is called Nyaya Prasthan. Nyaya Prasthan means giving logic. So in Vedanta Sutra, the absolute truth is explained very, very logically with explanation of cause and effect. So sometimes people follow the religion, but there is no philosophy. That leads to fanaticism, as we are seeing in the world around us. People are affiliated nicely to many religions, but when philosophy is not there, then they become fanatic, and that creates a lot of disturbance in the society. So some people, on the other hand, they want to shun the religion. They tell religion is blind faith, it is not based on any rationale, so I just want to speculate on my own what is absolute truth. So it is not possible. Just like if a person without understanding, taking help of scientists, wants to understand what is the sun, what is the moon, he will think they are small balls, not even ball, disc. To our eyes it appears just like a disc or a plate. So some shiny plates, shiny discs are there in the sky, we will think. Their actual size we will never be able to comprehend. Earth will always appear flat to us. So we take help of the knowledgeable people, scientists. On our own, if we speculate, it may take a very long time. Just like after many, many years of speculation, people actually came to understand what is this world actually. The world is not flat. Sun and moon are very big, not just small balls or discs. So like these various perceptions we developed after a very long time. So if you want to understand God, now we are discussing just about few planets and stars. If you want to understand about the creator of the universe, then it is very, very difficult. It will take many lifetimes of speculation. So thus Krishna tells, instead of wasting so many lives, now of course Paramatma is there in the heart, he will guide, help us to continue our research. But why do we want to suffer from unlimited deaths, old age and disease? Take help of religion. What is religion? The codes given by God, the scientific codes, dharmam tu sakshat Bhagwat pranitam. So these instructions which are given by God, if we follow scientific instructions, they help us to come to the spiritual platform and proper understanding of self and the supreme self, God, the purpose of creation, everything is revealed very nicely. So just like we take a user manual, it becomes very easy to operate the machine. Otherwise, we will not be able to operate advanced machines or we will spoil the machines. In a similar fashion, if we don't take help of religion, we will spoil ourselves. That is why despite so much of technological advancement, because people are going away from religion, actual religion, only distress is increasing in society. We are messing up with the machines, with the nature, with our bodies. So thus, religion is required and philosophy is also required. Philosophy without religion is mental speculation, will lead us nowhere, and religion without philosophy is fanaticism. So religion has to be backed up with philosophy. That is why the young generation today, they are not taking interest in religion, because there is no philosophy, no science behind it. And that is Bhagavad Gita, that is Vedanta Sutra. Everything is explained very, very logically. That is why it is appealing to many, many educated and young minds now. So Krishna is telling, understand this thing from Vedanta Sutra. That is the most authorized way of understanding what is body, what is the knower of the body, what is this material nature, what is this consciousness. And Vedanta Sutra also can be difficult to understand. That is why it is recommended in Kali Yuga to read Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is the explanation of Vedanta Sutra. Mahabhutanyahankaro buddhir avyaktameva cha indriyani dashaikam cha panchachendriya gocharaha ichha dvesha sukham dukkham sanghataschetana dhritihi etat kshetram samasena savikaram udahritam. The five great elements, false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses, the mind, the 5 sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms and convictions, all these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interactions. So here Krishna is giving the analysis of this field in the most basic constituents. We cannot tell the body is made of some proteins, amino acids, DNA, RNA. This is also not fundamental explanation. Fundamental means those things which are making the smallest building blocks of the body, not the cells but even the atoms. Within the atom, all these elements are present. Which are those elements? Panchabhutani, the 5 great elements, earth, air, water, fire, sky. We have discussed how fire within the atom has been discovered in the form of nuclear energy. Now if the science advances, they might be able to discover other elements also. The water and space, ether, air, everything they can find. It may not be present in the form we perceive it here. Fire is present in subtle form, fire is present in gross form. And we can understand now, just like the induction cookers are there now. There is no visible fire, but you can cook your food. It means that heating element, that fire is present in invisible or subtle form. In this way, fire can be present in many, many forms, but it is present there. In a similar fashion, within the atom also, water, sky, ether, everything is present. And intelligence is also present, mind is also present. And false ego, another energy which makes us believe I am the body, that is also present within the atom. So 5 plus 3 subtle mind, intelligence and false ego, man, buddhi, ahankara. These are the 8 elements. Then 10 senses, 5 knowledge acquiring senses, eyes, nose, skin, tongue. These are called knowledge acquiring senses. And then these are called Jnanendriya. Then Karmendriya means executive senses which have functions to perform like arms and legs. These are also considered senses in the Sankhya philosophy. Arms, legs, voice, the vocal cords, genitals and anus. These form 10 senses. And there are sense objects for the knowledge acquiring senses. Vision is a sense object, taste is another sense object. So in this way, 5 sense objects. So put together, so many elements, 24 elements are present. And the aggregate, when all of these are combined together, we get this body. And when these elements interact, the result of interaction is life symptoms. Sometimes it can be visible, sometimes it is not visible. There are some bodies in which, just like earlier, the scientists were not able to understand that trees have life because they are standing at one place. They are apparently not talking, not walking, not showing such metabolisms. They thought trees do not have life. So a person may show life symptoms, may not show life symptoms. But life is different from life symptom. So the symptom of life is actually the interaction of the elements of this field. And hatred, desire, happiness, distress, all these things are created. When the sense objects interact with the senses, sometimes that is desirable, Sometimes we hate it. I don't want this experience. Few things give pain, few things give pleasure. All this is because of interaction of the elements of this field. So once the living entity gets trapped in this field, then helplessly he will feel desire and hatred, pleasure and pain. And whole life one will be forced to run to increase the pleasure, to mitigate the pain. In this way, helplessly the material nature pulls the living entities. And a living entity undergoes through rigorous hard work and creates more and more desires and produces more and more bodies. In this way, gets trapped in the cycle of karma. So the life symptoms, happiness, distress, desire, hatred, these are all the field of activities and their interactions, even the convictions that we have. Just like a rabbit is having so much of tamoguna. As soon as it is attacked by a lion or predator, it closes its eyes when he sees no hope of running away. And then it becomes happy, thinks, oh, lion is gone, but lion is not gone, it has closed the eyes. This is called tamasic conviction. So when people drink, they want to go for some entertainment to forget the miseries of life. This is because of the tamasic conviction about life. Sattvic conviction is different. Sattvic person understands, I am not the body, I am spirit soul. So he or she is not affected by all these bodily changes, external troubles. And when a person very much advances in spiritual life, then he is least bit affected by the so-called pains of this material world. And when a person becomes a devotee, he develops the art to get pleasure from the pains inflicted by the material world. The example given is, as a mother is lifting the child in her arms, definitely the arms are feeling load, but the mother gets so much, I'll repeat, but the mother gets so much of pleasure. Even though there is some pain for the arms, but there is higher pleasure. In a similar fashion, a devotee, because his only ambition is to engage oneself in the service of God, all the pains are also very, very pleasant for the devotee. So this is the consciousness, the devotional consciousness, Krishna consciousness, which if a person acquires, yasme sthitona dukkhena guru napi vichalyet. Even the greatest misery is not misery, rather that misery is transformed into ecstasy, just like the misery of lifting the baby in the arms gets transformed into ecstasy for the mother. So just imagine what is devotee's life. We should aspire and work hard to get this consciousness. And that is what Lord Krishna is kindly giving through these beautiful verses of Bhagavad Gita. Now Lord Krishna explains how a person can get to this knowledge of body and the Kshetrajna, two Kshetrajnas which are different from the body. In which school should we take admission? What is the process? What are different standards or classes by which a person elevates oneself on this platform of knowledge? That Krishna is kindly explaining now. So please hear very carefully. Amanitvam adambhitvam ahimsa kshantirarjavam acharyopasanam shaucham thairyam atma vinigraha indriyartheshu vairagyam anahankara evacha janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanudarshanam asaktiranabhishvangaha putradaragrahadishu nityam cha samachittatvam ishtanishtopapatishu mai chananya yogena bhaktir avyabhicharini vivikta desha sevitvam aratir jana sansadi adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnanartha darshanam estaj jnanam iti proktam ajnanam yad atonyatha. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness and self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age and disease, non-attachment to children, wife, home, and the rest, and even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, resorting to solitary places, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I thus declare to be knowledge, and what is contrary to these is ignorance. So this is the process of knowledge. This is real knowledge. We are not concerned with relative knowledge much unless it helps us to advance on the path of real knowledge. Relative knowledge is, who am I? I am barrister, I am doctor, I am engineer. How long shall we remain? We shall leave the body, everything will go away. Oh no, I am Indian, I am American, I am Pakistani, I am Chinese. How long will this identification remain? It will change with the body. So this is relative knowledge. Who am I means I am different from all these designations. This is very important. So to understand this absolute knowledge, my absolute identity different from the body, identity of the Supreme Personality, the origin of entire existence, we have to follow this path. And this path of knowledge begins from the first step of humility. And it is mentioned in all the bona fide religions. Lord Jesus also told, the kingdom of God is meant for meek and humble. So humility is always recommended everywhere. Islam also means submission. So being submissive and being humble, it is recommended everywhere. All the messengers of God have given this very crucial, important step. Be very humble. This field is giving you some knowledge which you think is absolute, but it is not. It is simply the interaction of its elements. As we discussed, if a person has all the senses unfunctional in his body, then one will not be able to tell any form, any taste, any perception whatsoever. But will the world stop existing? No. For him the world is not existing because of the senses which are not functioning. So we have to understand this body cannot give us real knowledge. This body will give us temporary knowledge and the knowledge which is relative, which is my perception. A colorblind person will give different perception of colors, which may not be actual fact, which is not. So we have to understand this body is not capable of getting perfect knowledge. So to follow perfect knowledge, is it simple to understand? We have to be very, very clear. Thus a person becomes humble. I am dependent on this body to understand the world, but I cannot be sure. This body, the perception created by the body are relative. If I change body, I will have a different understanding of the world. So to get absolute knowledge, this is the process. First of all, become humble. That I have to find a person who knows absolute knowledge, the literature in which absolute knowledge is mentioned, because my body will simply give me perceptions which may not be real. I can never be sure. So become humble first of all. And after humility, then pridelessness, non-violence. Now non-violence is also very important to understand. And actually I should explain humility also, real humility, because it should not remain just a session in which we are reading and then we forget. These things we should apply. We have to come to the platform of real knowledge. This should not be just like hearing any other subject matter, politics or some other material sciences. So this is meant for practical application in our life, by which we come to platform of knowledge and we gain unending happiness. So humility, sometimes if a person is walking with folded hands and always bowing down, speaking softly, we think that is humble. So very nicely it is explained in Bhagavad Gita itself what is humility. Humility means not being anxious to get the satisfaction of being honored by others. Because any praise or criticism, it pertains to this body. If I am wearing a mask, somebody tells, oh, you are very beautiful. Oh, that is for the mask. Oh, if somebody tells you are ugly, that is also to the mask. Why should I get affected by it? I am ultimately wearing a mask. I should not get engladdened by hearing the praise, nor should I get disturbed by hearing the criticism. That is not me, that is my mask, external dress. In a similar fashion, the intelligence that we have, that is also part of this field, the appearance that we have, qualities that we have, or the faults that we have, all these things pertain to the field, and I am Kshetrajna, different from the field. So why should I fall for this deception? This is a big deception of this material nature. We are getting affected by praise and we are trying to avoid criticism, and thus we work hard entire life. If we are traveling, sitting in a train or a plane or a bus, we don't mind if people don't praise us, don't know about us. Why we don't mind? Because I understand I am here for a short while. Then why am I impressing everybody in this world? Here also I am there for a short while. I am eternal living entity. Because I do not understand this eternality, I think this world is a big place, and I am meant here to live a big time, almost eternally. It's a long life. It is there because we do not realize my eternal existence. So a person here should remain unconcerned. One who understands eternity, I'll repeat, one who understands eternality, this world is but a flash, small flash. So one should save time, not work very hard just to get some praises in this world, working hard to avoid criticism. All these things will come and go. One should know I will pass, things will continue. Nobody can stop material happiness and distress. They are concomitant factors, they will come and go. One should save time so that one should not get more such material distresses in future. So one who is not anxious to get the satisfaction of being honored by others, that person is called a humble person. Non-violence also, people think that if I kill somebody, harm somebody, then that is called non-violence. Satisfaction of the body, sense gratification is taken as good work, and harm to the body is taken as bad work. So we have to rise above this bodily concept. Sometimes harming the body is good for us who is Kshetrajna, different from the body. Just like on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, so many people were there. The devotees were there, the demons were there. Apparently, two different activities were happening. Bhagavatam explains, the devotees were being protected by the Lord and the demons were being demolished, killed by the Lord. But actually, everybody who was there on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, same thing was happening. Both the parties were being elevated to salvation, devotees or demons. So devotees were acting as an instrument in executing the mission of Lord, and thus fighting, leading this life of virtue in devotional service, they will be elevated to the spiritual kingdom. The demons, by their acts, they will degrade themselves. So they were being killed. And because they were dying in the presence of Krishna, they were getting completely purified. And they also were getting salvation. They also were getting liberated, which is possible only after great tapasya of many lifetimes. They got immediately by being killed in the presence of God. So thus, actually the same activity happens. God is all merciful. The anger of God and the love of God are the same. That is why he is called absolute person. There is no relativity in the person of God. So this point is very important. Now we just want comfort of body, and if I can give comfort of body to others, that is taken as benevolence. And hardship of body is taken as punishment. But no. Vedic culture means tapasya, give hardship to your body so that you can make spiritual advancement. So thus non-violence means not doing violence to the soul. Sometimes violence to the body is actually benefit for the soul. Same is the case with capital punishment. It is told in the Vedas, if a murderer is not killed in this life, next life he has to suffer so much. So in this life, if a person is killed, then he is purified of the sins. These are the laws of nature. Otherwise, the laws of nature will punish the murderer very much in the next life. Now we think, oh, this life is all in all. Anyway, there is no next life. Let him live. Let there be life imprisonment or imprisonment for a long time. This is kindness. This is not kindness. This is punishment. So Vedas mention the administrator or the king, if he or she imparts capital punishment on the killer, that is mercy upon that person. He is saved from future so many sufferings which are going to come. So in the ignorance of this separate existence of Kshetra and Kshetragya, people commit such blunders. In the name of non-violence, there is violence committed. So real non-violence means spreading this knowledge of spiritual life to others. In this way, all the miseries can be solved. Then tolerance is also very important. As we discussed, we should not get so much disturbed by the flow of happiness and distress, which is anyway going to happen. And whatever limited time we have in this human body, that should be saved to become immortal. So one should learn to tolerate the ongoing happiness and distress. So tolerance is important. And simplicity, arjavam. We all know what is simplicity. We should not be duplicit. And when a person is having these qualities, one is a suitable candidate to approach a bona fide spiritual master. That is called Acharya Upasanam. Approaching a spiritual master or worshipping the spiritual master. This is the next very important element in the spiritual knowledge. But unless somebody is humble, even if one approaches spiritual master, that will be fruitless. That is why Lord Krishna mentioned, if you have been hearing previous episodes, previous chapters, Krishna mentioned in 4th chapter, Pranipaten pariprashnena sevaya. Pranipatena, humble submission is very much required. If a person is arrogant, inquiries to spiritual master will not be fruitful. The person should be simple, person should be tolerant, person should be prideless, humble, non-violent, and when one approaches spiritual master, then all the inquiries will be very, very fruitful about absolute truths. So approaching spiritual master is next element of knowledge, because we discussed we cannot depend upon perceptions created by the body, which change even within this body, or when we change different body, perceptions sometimes can be totally different. So we have to approach spiritual master who is not having relative perceptions, who are liberated, who are not controlled by the urges of this body. Such a person is qualified to become spiritual master, and we should approach such person to get knowledge. Then, when we approach spiritual master, follow his instructions, we become clean, shaucham, that is next step of knowledge. If a person is unclean, he might have read all the books of knowledge, but as per Krishna, that person is living in ignorance. Because what is the use of accumulating so much knowledge here? And that knowledge might give him some money and fame here, but all this will be left behind, and that person can go on to become animal in next life. Because people are talking so much about law of attraction and manifestation, so that is fact. Nature is made to fulfill our desires. Now if the nature notices this person lives in a very dirty fashion, nature will give animal body. There is no need to take bath, you live like that always in a dirty fashion. So everything nature is noticing, all our thoughts, all our actions. So Shaucham is the next step. So to maintain Shaucham, it is explained in the Vedic culture, one should take bath every day. Bare minimum is once, standard is 2, recommended is thrice. Those who are sincere spiritualists, they take 3 times bath in a day. As soon as they get up in the morning before sunrise, then in the afternoon, and then in the evening. Because water not just purifies our external body, it purifies our mind also. That is why after bath we feel very good. We get mental happiness also. So water purifies the mind as well. So mind purification people do not know. For purifying the mind, we need water, we need to see greenery, lawns and plants, we need space. Now people are living in metros in small rooms, small space, with no plants around, no greenery. That is creating a lot of mental diseases. So that is why the Vedic way of life is perfect. The Varnashrama system is very perfect for material happiness and ultimately spiritual salvation. So Shaucham is important. We have to be very, very clean. Then we can come to the platform of spiritual knowledge. So external cleanliness is maintained by taking bath regularly, as we discussed, and internal cleanliness is obtained by always thinking of lotus feet of Krishna or chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra continuously. Internal cleanliness means lust and greed is the dirt within the heart. So we have to get free from this lust and greed. And for this lust and greed is the effect of rajas and tamas, mode of passion and ignorance in the body. How much ever moral science we study, it will not help unless we are constantly thinking of God within our heart or chanting His names. God's names are purely spiritual, Shuddha Sattvic, and so is His form. So we have to think of God, we have to always chant His names, and then lust and greed will not disturb us. In this way, external and internal cleanliness should be maintained. This is next level of knowledge. And then when we follow this Shaucham, next level, what happens is steadiness. Stharyam Atma Vinigraha. Steadiness and self-control comes. What is steadiness? Steadiness means initially it will be difficult to come to the platform of firm faith, and following the rules and regulations with great determination will slip down at times. So our spiritual life will not come to a platform of steadiness unless Shaucham is attained. We are free from all the addictions, all the bad habits, lust and greed of the heart, external cleanliness. Tharyam means firmness, steadiness in the spiritual life. Then a person becomes very, very determined. And unless this determination is there, tangible advancement in spiritual life will not take place. Determination to follow the rules and regulations is very important. And then self-control. Self-control means one should not get carried away by the demands of the senses. Now satisfying the sensual demand is considered perfection of one's life, success of life. No. Person is becoming more and more entangled, addicted to those sense objects which are not required in the first place. So self-control, senses should be satisfied only to maintain body, keep body and soul together for spiritual advancement. Then when we advance in self-control, steadiness, then comes renunciation of the objects of sense gratification. When a person understands what is reality, I am not the body, unnecessary satisfaction of the senses entangles me in repeated birth and death. When a person starts relishing spiritual happiness, then this mundane sense pleasure, sense objects become distasteful and rather detestful. And automatically a person renounces. So I should see, am I renouncing the objects of sense enjoyment in this world? Then I am advancing in knowledge. Then absence of false ego. The more we enjoy the senses in this world, the more I see beautiful forms which are not required to maintain the body. The more I eat food which is more than required for keeping body and soul together. The more I hear sounds and music which is more than required for keeping body and soul together, then I am making false ego more and more stronger. It will be impossible for me to understand that I am different from this body. So when we restrict the sense enjoyment, then automatically person becomes freed from false ego. Then perception of the evil of birth, death, old age and disease. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha dosh anudarshanam. Now people are wasting time to solve some temporary problems of life. I have to travel from this city to that city. How can I speed up my means of transport? For this, all the research is going on. We travel slowly or we travel very fast. That is not the main problem. The main problem is birth, death, old age and disease. This has to be solved. Death is miserable, diseases are miserable, old age is great misery. And of course, all this happens because of birth. So birth has to be also stopped. So this is the real challenge before science. This stage has to be attained. So one should not waste time in solving some temporary artificial problems of life. We should try to solve birth, death, old age and disease. When a person understands these are the real miseries of my life, the aim of life is to get freedom from these four things, then that is knowledge. Otherwise it is ignorance, solving some temporary problems. Non-attachment to children, wife, home and the rest. So it does not mean that a person should have no feelings for the family members. A person can rather cultivate the family members in Krishna consciousness. Simply morning and evening, if we chant the Hare Krishna, chant the names of God, and we have some discussion on scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. We worship the deity in our house and offer prasadam to the deities. Means food item to the deities, and we take the remnants. Simply if we follow these four things, then our family life can be very, very happy. Otherwise, family life is the source of all miseries. These people do not know. This is another perception created by this body. Oh, now you have studied nicely, you have got a nice business job, now you have a family and you will enjoy. but life becomes more miserable. So unless a person is advanced, very advanced in spiritual life, family life is hitvatma patam griham andukupam, the Shastras describe like a dark well which is covered by green grass. Once a person falls down in that dark well, abandoned well, he may keep on crying, shouting. Nobody can help that person. That is materialistic family life, full of miseries. The miseries keep on increasing. So this knowledge is so important. People think, oh, my love of my life, if I marry, I'll be happy. And what happens if we marry? If you don't marry, there is trouble. If you marry, still there is trouble. The same object of love becomes object of hatred. And a person starts hating the same person. And one wonders why this is happening. This is the nature of this world. In this way, the living entity is getting cheated in all the species of life. We discuss always, the moth thinks, let me just go to fire, I'll enjoy, burns itself. Thus, one should not depend upon the interactions of this field, its elements. One should get real knowledge from the Shastras, from spiritual master. But if we follow the simple process, chanting and in Kali Yuga, chanting and hearing the names of God, that is why all the religions they recommend, always chant. Morning and evening twice at least we chant, sing. It is very simple to perform. Discuss just like now we are discussing. Try to understand with reason and logic, not with blind faith. And worship the deity in the house, offer the foodstuffs and eat that. Actually, entire thing, our spiritual life, the beginning is the tongue. This is very important. As we discussed sense control, one may wonder, senses are so difficult to control. How shall I do it? The secret is mentioned in the Vedas. The secret lies in Jivva. Adav means beginning, Jivva means tongue. Tongue has two functions, to chant and to taste. So if we can control this sense organ, tongue, we can control mind, we can control belly, we can control reproductive organs, we can control everything, all the other senses. So control just tongue, two functions, tasting and talking. So talk about Krishna, the names of God, I'll repeat. So talk about Krishna, the names of God, and taste the remnants of food which is offered to God. As we have discussed in 3rd chapter, verse number 13, it is very, very important. Tasting prasad, yagya shishta is very, very important, very scientific. An entire spiritual life will develop, all the sense control will happen automatically. And these 4 things, if a householder follows, even in household life, one will be happy. Otherwise, how much ever we may try to earn money, you go and meet various counselors, that counselor himself is fighting with his family members, nothing is going to work. Next is so here it is mentioned non-attachment to the family members if they are non-devotees. If they are non-devotees, then a person should leave the house and follow the spiritual life very nicely. Sometimes people think that is running away from responsibility. No. Just like a person runs away to office to attend to the duties so that one can help the family. If a person goes away from family after 50 years, so normally in Kali Yuga, everybody is not advised to take sannyas from the beginning because training is not there. But after 50 years of age, and rather sannyas should be taken only by very advanced spiritualists. But Vanprastha is very important. After 50 years of age, husband and wife can live in a place of pilgrimage or live in the temple, around the temple, and focus completely on the spiritual life. Detachment from the family members, that is very important. So such things are recommended. The detachment is required if the family members are not favorable. But if the entire family is devotee, then there is no need to leave. Then a person can live with the family members and advance in spiritual life. But if the family is not favorable, it is advisable to leave and follow spiritual life very nicely. That will be good for the person and will be good for the family members also. For a while, they might miss the association of family member, but they will all be able to attain immortality even if one of the family member can attain perfection in spiritual life. Resorting to solitary places. Okay, before that is even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events. Constant and unalloyed devotion to me. Now when a person is so much advanced, He, for spiritual advancement, is willing to detach himself from the temporary association also. Then he becomes even-minded among the pleasant and unpleasant events. But to attain such a platform, one needs to engage oneself in unbreakable devotional service. That is called Jivan Mukta stage. Artificially, we cannot do it. Somebody comes and chastises us, criticizes us, speaks bad words. How much ever we can try to convince ourselves, it is just compression, rarefaction of the air. Why should I get bothered? People keep on talking, we get affected by it. But when a person is Jivan Mukta on the spiritual platform, as a person on the mental platform is not able to hear at times what the lecturer spoke, professor spoke, or what the boss spoke in the meeting, because one was on mental platform, absorbed somewhere else. So when a person is absorbed on spiritual platform, all the changes of this material world, pleasant and unpleasant, on the physical level do not affect one. But to reach on that spiritual platform, one needs to engage in constant devotional service, just like the iron rod in fire. That is why it is told Satatam Kirtayanto Mam. If always it is not possible to engage in service, at least this seva chanting always can be done. By constantly chanting the names of Krishna, gradually we come to spiritual platform. Then nothing disturbs us. Then constant and unalloyed devotion unto me. This is most important. After following all these steps, one has to come to this platform, constant and unalloyed devotion to Krishna. Then resorting to solitary places. When a person is having constant and unalloyed devotion to God, then he does not want to mix with the materialists. Detachment from the general mass of people. General mass of people who are ignorant. Actually mad. A person who thinks himself as somebody else in a different identity, that is called a madman. Sometimes we see some mad person is controlling traffic on the street. He is thinking he is a traffic policeman, but that is wrong. That is not his identity. Some mad people in the asylum will act as doctors, somebody in a different manner. So they are misidentifying themselves. So anybody who misidentifies oneself is a mad person. So now everybody is identifying oneself with their designations of the kshetra. I am man, I am woman, I am tall, I am short, I am Indian, I am American. These are all wrong designations. So thus when a person understands everyone is mad, he becomes detached. This is advanced stage of knowledge. And then accepting the importance of self-realization. Otherwise, the normal aim of a materialist is to enjoy the senses. But here, a person enjoys no self-realization, understanding my real identity is important. Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam. And then one philosophizes, one does philosophy to understand what is Tattva Jnana, what is absolute truth. Now we have philosophy about mundane girl and boy relationship, the philosophy about leadership, the philosophy about treating people nicely in your company, and so many such philosophies of managing finance and trade. But a person who is advanced in knowledge does philosophy for understanding Tattva Jnana, absolute truth. So these are the various steps of knowledge which a person has to transcend. It's just like a staircase, and it begins with humility. So please read all these qualities nicely and try to apply in the life. Now the time is less. Maybe we'll try to find out another forum by which we can discuss how to practically implement all these things in our life. Gyeyam yat tat pravakshyami yajgyatvam ashnute anadimat param brahma nasattanna saduchyate. I shall now explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal. This is beginningless, and it is subordinate to me. It is called Brahm, the spirit, and it lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. Now Krishna is explaining what is knowable. Knowledge is meant to know something. What is that thing? And that is Brahma. If you follow this process, step by step what we discussed, ultimately the knowledge of Brahma has to be attained. And what will happen if we get this knowledge? Amritam Ashnute. We will taste nectar. What is nectar? It is a heavenly liquid which makes one eternal. It is very, very tasty. It makes a person full of bliss. So when a person gets this knowledge, he becomes blissful and gets an eternal life. So that is the advantage of getting knowledge of Brahma Gyan. And what is this Brahm? Krishna tells? Anadi mat param Brahma. First of all, it is Anadi. There is no beginning of this Brahma. Everything has got a beginning, but this Brahma has no beginning. It is eternal. So that is why all of us, the living entities, are eternal. Nobody can trace that at this point of time the living entity came out from God. The God is eternal, the living entity, his part and parcels are also eternal. We are infinitesimal, God is infinite. That is the difference. But all of us are Anadi, eternal. Anadi mat param Brahma. So Brahm, as we discussed, are of three categories, and mainly it refers to Atma and Paramatma. So here the first line describes Atma. Because it is being explained, Mat Para Brahma, it is subordinate to me. Nasat Tannasat Uchyate, it is beyond the cause and effect of this material world. So again Krishna has told, not just the knower of the body Kshetrajna or the Brahm is different from the field. It is, somebody can tell, yes, it is different, but it is produced by the field. Krishna is telling here, no, it is different and it is not produced by the field. It is different from the cause and effect of this material world. It is not the effect of this material world. So this is the definition of subordinate Brahma. Now Krishna will explain about the super soul, Param Brahma. Sarvatah Panipadam Tat Sarvatokshi Shiro Mukham Sarvatah Shruti Malloke Sarvam Avritya Trishtati. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes and faces, and he hears everything. In this way, the super soul exists. So what does it mean that the eyes, hands, legs, heads of super soul are everywhere? It means because super soul is actually the proprietor of this body, and we are but tenants in this body. We have been given control of this body for a short time, and he is the proprietor. So because he is the proprietor and bodies are there everywhere in the universe, that is why it is being told here, his hands and legs are there everywhere. Sarvendriya gunabhasam Sarvendriya vivarjitam Asaktam sarvabhrichaiva Nirgunam gunabhoktracha. The super soul is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. He is unattached, although he is the maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time he is the master of all modes of material nature. Sarvendriya gunabhasam Sarvendriya vivarjitam. So this is very important. He is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. Now when we read this word Sarvendriya vivarjitam, we come to a conclusion, oh, it means the super soul is simply some energy, because person or energetic means one should have senses. Here it is being told Sarvendriya vivarjitam, he is devoid of all senses. So devoid of all senses means, yes, just see, God is not a person, God is energy, Paramatma is an energy only. But we have to understand, Asaktam sarva bhrichayava nirgunam gunabhoktracha. It is mentioned here, he is unattached, although he is the maintainer of all living beings. A dead energy cannot maintain anybody. Maintainer has to be conscious. Just like the mother is conscious, now child needs this, now child needs that. Here I have to protect the child, here I have to feed him or her. In this manner, maintainer has to be conscious. The most difficult task is to maintain. Person has to be very conscious and respond in real time. Creation is easy. Destruction is also easy. Maintenance is very difficult. So he is maintainer. Dead energy cannot maintain anything. So how to understand this? He does not have senses and he is maintainer. Maintainer must be conscious. So that is why we need the help of proper spiritual master to understand these facts. This will be clarified also. And in previous verse also we have seen, it is mentioned, Sarvata Shrutimalloke Sarvam Avritya Tishtati. He hears everything. So energy cannot hear, a person can hear. Sarvata Shrutimalloke. He hears everything, it is being told. So he hears, he maintains, but he does not have senses. So how is hearing without the senses? So actually the senses are, you can call small machines or equipments, just like we have sensors here in this world. There is one sensor which senses the weight, and basis that it will send a unique signal to the circuit. When weight crosses this limit, raise an alarm. When weight is less, this indicator should glow up. And then there is another sensor which detects fire, and then it raises fire alarm. There is shower and so many things. So in this way we can create sensors. Similarly, Krishna has created senses. But Krishna does not need all these things in his body, because in the body already all these things are present. Just like we create robots, and these sensors, to make them active, we need to put some chips, diodes, transistors, cameras, wirings. But the creator does not have wiring, creator does not have camera installed in his body, but the creator also can see, the creator also can walk, talk and sense. How? Because he has got different system within his body. He does not need these artificial robotic senses to perform the function which robots are performing. In a similar fashion, Krishna can do all these things. Krishna can talk, Krishna can walk, Krishna can eat, Krishna can laugh, Krishna can hear, but through his spiritual body. That is why it is explained in the Brahma Samhita, written by Lord Brahma. He tells, Angani yasya sakalendriya vritti manti. Angani means the limbs of the body. Angani yasya. Yasya means whose limbs of the body are so amazing. Sakal indriya. Sakal means all. Indriya means senses. Vritti manti means they can perform the actions. So every limb of the body, Sakal indriya, can perform the actions of all the indriyas. This is the nature of spiritual body. So the spiritual body can perform all the senses of watching, hearing, talking, tasting, all the functions. Thus Krishna can see with his hands. Krishna can eat with his ears. This is the nature of spiritual body. Angani yasya sakalendriya vritti manti. So here when it is being mentioned, sarvendriya vivarjitam, that he is devoid of senses, means these material senses which are required to get perceptions in this body. These are not present in super soul, because the spirit has got already all the functions of the senses inbuilt in all the limbs of the spiritual body. Thus one can maintain, the Supreme Brahma can maintain, the Supreme Brahma can hear, Supreme Brahma can accept, Supreme Brahma can walk without the legs. These legs, these machinery, bones and all are not required. The spirit, soul, spiritual body can perform the functions of these mechanical legs that we have got here. Bahirantascha bhutanam acharam charameva cha Sukshmatva tad avigyeyam durastham chantike chatat. The Supreme Truth exists both internally and externally, in the moving and non-moving. He is beyond the power of the material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all. Now this word is important. Sukshmatva tad avigyeyam. Krishna has told, now I am going to explain to you Gyeyam, which is to be known, the object of knowledge. And the object of knowledge, Brahma, Krishna tells, it is avigyeyam, it cannot be known. This is again contradictory. Krishna tells, Gyeyam yattat pravakshami yaj gyatva amritam ashnute. You will taste nectar by knowing the Gyeyam. Gyeyam is knowable. Now Krishna tells, knowable is avigyeyam, unknowable. What is this? It means, yes, the Brahma has to be known, but Brahma is avigyeyam, unknowable using the present senses. So these senses also have to be spiritualized. So this religion is meant, these rules and regulations that we follow are meant to spiritualize our body. When the body is spiritualized, then we can perceive spiritual existence. Then we can see spirit, we can hear spiritual sound, we can have spiritual taste, Otherwise, we will function only in this material world. So that is why the Gyayam is Avigyayam, knowable is unknowable on material platform. So this word is very important. So he is Avigyayam, not to be known by the material senses. He is beyond the power of material senses to see or know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all. So although the God is situated in permanent abode, everything is in control of God, so nobody can destroy the abode of God. That is called Sanatan Dham. So thus he is situated in his Dham, which is far, far away. But as Paramatma, he is present in the heart, he is very near as well. So in this way, the same person is very far and near as well. In this way, all the contradictions can be adjusted in the absolute truth. Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu vibhaktam iva cha sthitam bhuta bhartra cha tajgeyam grasishnu prabhavishnu cha. Although the super soul appears to be divided, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all. Super soul appears to be divided. So when we hear that the super soul Paramatma is present in all the living entities, moving and non-moving, so we may think different Paramatmas are there in every heart, in every living entity. So he appears to be divided. That is why again contradiction. Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu vibhaktam iva cha sthitam. So he is avibhaktam, he cannot be divided, but he appears to be divided. So thus contradictions are deliberately mentioned here to help us understand who is God. He is completely different, his personality is completely different. Because people are not able to understand how these contradictions are there, they simply make it very simple. Oh, God is energy. Because these things are not possible, God is simply energy. Because a person cannot have all these features, but spiritual person has these features. So thus here it is explained, an analogy is given in the Vedas, just like the moon can be reflected or the sun can be reflected in different vessels of water. One may think, oh, every vessel of water has a moon. But no, moon is not divided, moon is one only. It is being reflected in so many different water reservoirs. In a similar fashion, God is one only, but he can expand himself to be present in all the living entities. But he is not divided, he is one. Jyotisham api tajyotis tamasaf paramuchyate Jnanam gyeyam jnanagamyam hridhi sarvasya vishthitam. He is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge, he is the object of knowledge, and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. So ultimately, Paramatma is knowledge, he is the goal of knowledge, and he is situated in everyone's heart. And he is always noticing the desires, as it will be explained further. As is the desire of the living entity. Living entity wants to enjoy material pleasure. Paramatma inspires him to enjoy material pleasure. And to enjoy material comforts, one need to do proper karma. He gives inspiration from the heart how to do right karma. If it is not possible to enjoy in this life, next life he continues with the soul, goes in the next body, and then again reminds. So you wanted to enjoy in this way, I have given you facility now. Now you enjoy. We want to forget God, he will give best of the atheistic arguments. And if you want to remember him, he will give best of the theistic logics. He is very kind Father who fulfills all the desires of the living entity. But we need to understand from that most intelligent Father, what is my best interest? And that best interest is to engage in loving relationship with that Father who is living in the heart. Iti kshetram tatha jnanam gyeyam choktum samasataha madbhakta etad vigyaya madbhavayupapadyate. Thus, the field of activities, the body, knowledge, and the knowable have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. So, this is called science of God. How nicely it is being explained. Unless we understand in this manner what is God, so either we'll not be able to understand Him or there would be fanaticism. So, this science is the object of human form of life to understand. But who can understand? Krishna mentions, Mad Bhakta etad Vigyaya. Only Mad Bhakta, my devotee, can know. If we have to have knowledge about a person, we need to have relationship with the person. And a devotee only has got a loving relationship with the Lord. So only devotee can understand the science of God perfectly. Others will get confused and bewildered. Prakritim purusham chaiva vidhyanadiyo bhavapi vikaranshcha gunanshchaiva vidhi prakriti sambhavan. Material nature and the living entity should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. So these two words next Krishna is explaining. Arjuna asked 6 things. Kshetram, Kshetragyam, Prakritim, Purusham, Jnanam and Gyayam. So Prakriti and Purush, now Lord Krishna is explaining. What is this Prakriti and Purush? Prakriti means one who is enjoyed or the material nature. And Purush means the enjoyer. So Krishna is actually Purush. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. In the 10th chapter, Arjuna came to the conclusion after hearing Bhagavad Gita. Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Purusham, Paramam Bhavan, your supreme Purush person. Purush means enjoyer, Prakriti means enjoyed. Just like in a company, the employer is Purusha, employee is Prakriti, to be enjoyed. So the company is running for the pleasure of the employer. And employer governs, dictates the terms, gives orders, and the employee follows the order, but both of them enjoy. Both of them are eager to work over there. The employee wants to serve the employer, employer also wants to serve the employee, but employer is the master, employee is subordinate. This position is always there. And if the employee becomes envious, then he leaves the company, he or she leaves the company, and then there is no more enjoyment. That is our relationship with God. This very important thing we forget. We think I am Purusha. Purusha means enjoyer. This material world, everything is meant for my enjoyment. No, it is meant for enjoyment of God. But we should not be envious. Just like we are not envious of our employer. We want to work in good big companies. And in this fashion, when we work nicely, we are properly remunerated. And both the employer and the employees, they enjoy this relationship. In a similar fashion, in a house also we can see the head of the family, father can be predominator, and the children, a proper son or daughter, they will always follow the instructions of their parents. They will not tell, now you are subordinate, you follow my instructions. So normally we give respect, and that is what is to be done. So although in a family also there is somebody who is predominator, others are predominated, but both of them enjoy. They are living for each other. But if sometimes the son becomes envious, he leaves the father and goes away. Father is very rich, he wants to give all comforts to the child, but the child should not become envious. That is the position, that is a relationship between us and God. Now here, we have come in a mood to enjoy, but that is not our position. We are always Prakriti, we are enjoyed, we are always subordinate. That is why now here also we are subordinate. We are subordinate to somebody, we have to serve someone to get happiness. Without serving, we cannot be happy here. Either we have to find some boss outside we have to serve, or we have to go and we have to serve, as we discussed, the boss has to serve the employee, then only boss can be happy. The businessman has to serve the customers, then one can be happy. If nobody is there in the family, people keep pets, they serve the pets, then they get pleasure. So service is important. Or we serve the senses, we follow the dictates of the senses. So our position is that of Prakriti, subordinate. Now we should find out who is the best master. I think it is clear. We cannot be master. It is artificial if I think I am master, I will control. then there would be troubles in life because of this mentality. I am anyway subordinate. I am serving anybody, somebody, man or animal, or my senses, whims of my mind, body, whatever mind demands, I immediately satisfy, then I can be happy. But Krishna is not like this. Krishna is Purush. So just like Ram Navami festival is there, we see how, or even Janmashtami, all these festivals, why do we celebrate? So that we can understand the signs of God. How Lord Ramchandra, he was about to be coronated as the king of Ayodhya. As soon as father told, you have to go to jungle. 14 years. Immediately told, yes father, I will go. So he is not under control of senses. He is controlling the senses. Krishna is there enjoying with his wives. And then as soon as it is Brahmurta in the morning, 3 o'clock, Krishna will leave the bed. And the wives will curse the morning. But Krishna is not attached. Krishna is having complete control of his senses. Bhishma Pitama told that Krishna was dancing with the girls in the middle of night playing his flute. But he was able to control his senses perfectly. If I was there in Krishna's position, when somebody accused of Krishna as a woman hunter, Krishna told, no. Don't call Krishna's affairs as mundane affairs of boy and girl in this world. Krishna danced in the middle of night with the gopis because that was the desire of the gopis. They wanted to have that relationship with Krishna, so Krishna reciprocated. But there is no question of any mundane gross pleasures being enjoyed over there. That is completely spiritual activity. But Bhishma told that control was not possible, would not have been possible even for me. I am celebrated as the greatest brahmachari, greatest celibate controller of senses in the world. But I would have fallen down in that situation. This is Krishna. So Krishna can have perfect control over his senses. When he wants to enjoy, he can employ his senses. But we are, on the other hand, subordinate to our senses, our mind, subordinate to other living entities. This is not Krishna's position. So Krishna, God, is actually enjoyer and we are enjoyed. So in this way, if I understand Jiva Krishna Das ei Vishwas karle twar dukh nai. When I start planning how to please God, then automatically I get so much of pleasure in life. When the hand decides, I will feed this body now, and will get automatically nourishment. This very important science is missing. How much have we planned in our life to think of pleasure of God? Not much. So if we do that, if we lead our life just to give pleasure to God, and the greatest pleasure God gets in when somebody spreads this knowledge to others, which can relieve the living entities from all troubles. So in this way, if we dedicate our resources, our skills, our talent, our time to spread this message, that will be the greatest service to God, and automatically our life will be happy materially as well as spiritually. This important position has to be understood, that we are Prakriti. Our happiness lies only when we plan the enjoyment of Supreme Purush. But because here now in this world we have come in the mood of enjoyment, this Purusha refers to the living entities here, because we are in the mood of Purusha. So now Krishna is explaining this Prakriti and Purusha. And what do we enjoy here? The material nature, the resources. So Prakriti here refers to this material nature and Purusha refers to the living entity, all of us. Material nature and living entity should be understood to be beginningless. Now people wonder, what is the origin of this material nature, Prakriti, which works in such an wonderful engineered fashion, wonderful automation. Male, female get attracted to each other, and the gametes fuse, two chemicals fuse, and then there is a new machine which is coming out, developing automatically. What is this wonderful system? What is this ecosystem? Who has made it? How it has come? So Krishna is explaining it is eternal. Sometimes it is manifest, sometimes it is unmanifest. But this energy is eternal. Material nature is eternal. And what about living entities? There was some chemical reaction and living entities have sprung up? No, the living entity is also eternal. So all this research, Krishna has simplified it in this verse. Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidhi Anadi Ubhavapi. Both of them are Anadi, both of them are eternal. Vikaranscha Gunanscha Vidhi Prakriti Sambhavam. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. Karya Karan Kartritve Hetuf Prakritiruchyate Purusha Sukha Dukkhanam bhoktritve heturuchyate. Nature is said to be the cause of all material activities and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. So this is also very important shloka. Nature can only be responsible for the changes in the field, the world around us. It is said to be the cause of all material activities and effects, but happiness and distress is not created by nature, that is created by us. Just like the judge does not create happiness and distress for any person. Sometimes judge will award compensation, sometimes judge will give punishment, rigorous punishment to be hanged till death. So the person is responsible for that, happiness or distress. In a similar fashion, material nature will produce all the transformations. Now whether I will take pain from those transformations or pleasure, that depends on us. So that is why all our pains and pleasures are created by us alone, in ignorance of the reality of spiritual pleasure. Purushav prakritistho hi bhunkte prakritijan gunan karanam gunasangosya sad asad yoni janmasu. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with the material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil amongst various species. So here the law of transmigration is explained. Why somebody gets a good body, bad body. Karanam guna sango asya guna sanga. If we associate with sattva guna, we eat sattvic food, we live or associate with sattvic people, we read sattvic literatures, hear sattvic sounds, speak sattvic sounds, then we are associating with sattva guna. Then next body will be urdhva gachanti, we will go to higher planetary systems, where we have a very, very long life. The distress of death, old age, disease is very less, and the bodily sensual strength is very strong, and we can enjoy happiness. We can have greater knowledge. And if we associate with Rajoguna, Tamoguna mode of passion and ignorance, then we can take birth as a wretched human being, and maybe a diseased body we will get, or we will glide down to lower animal species of life, or other insects, reptiles, aquatics, or trees, depending on in what proportion I am associating with the modes of nature. Thus, in order to have a good life, person should always be sattvic. In order to transcend this material nature, person should be shuddha sattvic, always associate with spiritual subject matter. Upadrishtanumanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwaraha paramatmeti chapyukto dehe asmin purushav paraha. Yet in this body there is another transcendental enjoyer who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the super soul. Now again, as Krishna told previously, Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. You are knower of the field, but I am also knower. I am knower of all the fields. Similarly, here Krishna is mentioning Upadrishta anumanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwara dehe asmin purushaha paraha. Para means transcendental, one who is not affected by the laws of this nature, prakriti. We are affected by the laws of nature now, we are conditioned souls. But Krishna is paraha purushaha, means he is transcendental. Although Krishna is living as Paramatma in the heart of a pig, but Krishna is not living in the filthy drain, although pig could be loitering in the drain. Krishna is transcendental. Although he is present in the heart, he is not affected by the surroundings. That is called Paraha Purushaha. That Krishna mentions. What is the role of this Paraha Purusha? Dehe Asmin, who is also living within this body. The role of that Purush is, we are here to enjoy the fruits of this field. Why this other Purusha is here? What is he doing? He is Upadrishta Anumanta Cha. So this is called science of God. Just knowing God is great does not help us to increase our spiritual life much, unless we know how God is great, why he is so great. So here Krishna mentions Upadrishta. He is overseer, observing the actions of all the living entities. That is power of God. That is called omniscience. He is conscious of all the living entities. Upadrishta, he is the witness. What we desire, Paramatma facilitates. Oh, you want this? Do this karma. You want to have this logic? Okay, take it. Understand the subject matter. You want to forget this? Okay, take forgetfulness. Forgetfulness, remembrance, knowledge, everything is coming from God. And then Anumanta, sanctioner. Without sanction of God, not a blade of grass can move. So he is present as witness and sanctioner in the heart, helping us to enjoy this material world. Bharta Bhokta Maheshwaraha. He is the Bhokta, supreme enjoyer, and he is Bharta, he is also master, supreme master. He is the supreme proprietor. And his name is Paramatma. We are Atma or Anu Atma, and he is called Paramatma, the supreme soul. Paramatmeti Chapyukto. So if we read Bhagavad Gita, everything is so clear. Atma is different, Paramatma is different. We are Purush, but there is Paraha Purush. There are two souls within the body. So entire thing is very clear. Just we have to carefully, attentively hear Bhagavad Gita from proper source. And then understanding of matter, spirit, supreme spirit, God, material world, spiritual world, everything will be very, very clear. Ya evam vetti purusham prakritim cha gunay saha sarvatha vartamanopi nasa bhuyo bhijayate. One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity and the interaction of the modes of nature, is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. Dhyanenatmani pashyanti kechid atmanam anye sankhyena yogena karma yogena chapare. That super soul is perceived by some through meditation, by some through the cultivation of knowledge, and by others through working without fruitive desire. Anne tvevam ajanantaha shrutva nebhya upasate tepi chati tarantyeva mrityum shruti parayanah. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about Him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. This is our situation. So, previous verse mentions some people try to understand this subject matter of Brahma, self-realization, by following Sankhya, by working without fruitive desire, Karma Yoga, or by the mystic yoga process, meditation. But some people are not educated in these paths, but these people also become successful simply by hearing from authorities. So this is our situation. Those who are not advanced in spiritual understanding, like most of us now in this age, we can simply hear from authority, a person who has seen the truth. If we simply hear from them, we also surpass Mrityum Shruti Parayana. By hearing, we also surpass repeated birth and death. Yavas sanjayate kinchit sattvam sthavara jangamam kshetra kshetrajna sanyogat tadvidhi bharatarshabha. O chief of the Bharatas, whatever you see in existence, both moving and unmoving, is only the combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishthantam parameshwaram vinashyatsva vinashyantam yaf pashyati sapashyati. One who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all the bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul is ever destroyed, actually sees. Samam pashyan hi sarvatra samavasthitam ishwaram nahi nastyatmanatmanam tato yati param gatim. One who sees the super soul in every living being and equal everywhere, does not degrade himself by his mind, and thus he approaches the transcendental destination. Prakrityaiva cha karmani kriyamāṇāni sarvashah yah pashyati tathatmanam akartaram sapashyati. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. So this is called real vision. If I think somebody is doing something, that is not fact. Whatever happiness and distress one is destined to get in this life, one is forced to engage in the activities as per the laws of nature. As soon as we get this body, now we are under control of nature. We will feel hunger. We will be forced to work hard to mitigate our hunger. That work will also depend upon our body, the skills, the nature, the inclination which we have acquired. So thus the living entity is just a passive worker. If one has got the body of dog, one will be forced to eat certain kind of eatables. One will be forced to search for certain kind of eatables. One will be forced to talk in a certain language in a certain way. So we are passive, we are forced. Just like once a criminal is arrested, he becomes passive worker. He does not want to break stones. He is forced to break stones. He does not want to tread that path or corridor. One is forced to walk. In a similar fashion, as per the bodies, the living entity is forced to work. So actually, material nature is working. It has got certain plan, and the living entities, basis their machines, are acting helplessly under the control of nature. So one who sees this is actually the seer. Yada bhuta prithak bhavam ekastham anupashyati tat eva cha vistaram brahma sampadyate tada. When a sensible man ceases to see different identities which are due to different material bodies, he attains to the Brahma conception. Thus he sees that beings are expanded everywhere. This is the beginning of spiritual life. Brahma bhuta prasannatma. When a person comes to the level of Brahma. What is that Brahma? When he ceases to see different identities. What does it mean? He sees everyone is same person only? No. He ceases to see different identities which are due to material bodies. Prithak bhavam. Prithak bhavam means different identities or different natures. Dog is having certain nature, camel is having certain nature, people are having different natures. So when we see different identities due to different natures, that is illusion. Seeing different identities is not illusion. We are all unique people, having unique identity as a spirit soul, but that identity is because of the nature of the spirit soul, not because of the nature of this body. So when we stop discriminating basis the body, oh this is camel, this is dog, this is man, this is woman, then we have attained the Brahma conception. We understand that the beings, the spirit souls only, which are same in nature, they are all spiritual in nature, not less intelligent, more intelligent, ugly, beautiful, they are all spiritual in nature. And when we see that there are all these dresses around me, one should stop seeing these different material identities, then that is called Brahma conception. Then a person is always very happy, always very jolly. This is the result of properly following the instructions of spiritual master. Then what is this vision? That is further explained. Anaditva nirgunatvat paramatmayam avyayaha sharirasthopi kaunteya nakaroti na lipyate. Those with the vision of eternity can see that the soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. Yatha sarvagatam sokshmyad akasham nopalipyate sarvatravasthito dehe tathatma nopalipyate. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all-pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahma vision does not mix with the body, though situated in that body. Yatha prakashayatyekah kritsnam lokam imam ravihi kshetram kshetri tatha kritsnam prakashayati bharata. O son of Bharat, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminates the entire body by consciousness. So just like the sun illuminates the universe, the soul illuminates the body because of consciousness. So consciousness is not because of brain, it is because of soul. It comes through brain in our body. It functions like that. So this is very important point. Very clearly Krishna is, I repeat. So this is very important point. Very clearly Krishna is mentioning here the source of consciousness is this Brahma. It is not the brain or any other organ or cell within the body. Kshetra kshetrajnayorevam antaram jnana chakshusha bhuta prakriti moksham cha ye viduryanti te param. One who knowingly sees this difference between the body and the owner of the body and can understand the process of liberation from this bondage also attains to the supreme goal. So these words are very important here. Antaram jnana chakshusha. Antaram means the difference. The difference between the material body and spirit has to be seen. Is it so easy? Can we just see like that? Oh, I have seen by my microscope, here spirit is different from the body? No. That is why it is told here, not by these chakshus, by jnana chakshusha, by the eyes of knowledge. Although I see the sun even now as a disk, but with jnana chakshusha, I see the sun as a sphere which is much bigger than earth. Although I see water in the desert, with jnana chakshusha I see water is not there, it is total internal reflection. So now also we apply the jnana chakshusha. In a similar fashion, it has to be seen from jnana chakshusha. Directly our material body, it is avijnayam as we have seen. It is designed to perceive only matter. So unless this body is spiritualized, yes, a stage is possible. If by following rules and regulations very nicely we spiritualize our body, then we can see spirit factually. So long that stage is not attained, jnana chakshusha, we should start our spiritual life by jnana chakshu. As soon as we see our body, we know there are cells, there are protons, neutrons, electrons, although these chakshus do not see, jnana chakshusha. But when one becomes advanced, scientist in the lab can see these things, can see cells within the cell. In a similar fashion, when we advance in spiritual life, it becomes perception, factual perception, but initially jnana chakshusha. By understanding from those who have seen, we should not get trapped in this illusion. Just the whole world is just thinking the dress is actually the person. No, jnana chakshusha, it is different, the persons are different. And when a person understands this process of knowledge, which we have seen, amanittam avdambhitvam ahimsa kshantirarjavam, humility, pridelessness, accepting the spiritual master, then one also becomes free from this bondage of birth and death. So let us start seeing this world as spirit souls, completely different from matter, and the spirit has to be taken out from this repeated entanglement in matter. So this chapter is very important. Please again revisit and hear the elements of knowledge. Try to apply in our life all those steps so that we can advance to understand this Atma Tattva. This chapter requires great deliberation, great contemplation, and by this we can begin to understand the spirit soul different from matter, different from this body. And that marks the beginning of spiritual life. Very soon we will meet with chapter 14, the 3 modes of material nature. Till then, please keep on chanting always as much as possible. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.